Hi, I'm CB, and how's everybody doing today? Good. Yay! Well, we have a wonderful, amazing panel coming up. The Humane League, nonprofit organization with four amazing speakers: Bonnie Carlston, Deep G. Reddy, Helen Skinner, and Monica Wooters Khan. The Humane League is on a mission to end the abuse of animals raised for food, and it's working. Recognized by animal cruelty evaluations as one of the most effective animal advocacy groups in the world, THL has secured groundbreaking victories through bold corporate and legislative campaigns. Now, THL's Bay Area team is pulling back the curtain. Get an inside look at THL's strategy. Learn about current campaign targets. Find powerful ways you can get involved. If you've ever wondered, what can I do to help animals? This is your chance to find out. Don't miss it at #ForTheAnimals. Let's give them a warm welcome. Thank you.
Is this on? Okay. Wasn't sure. Okay, I'm gonna have some people to compete with over here next door, but we're gonna try our best here. Thanks everyone for coming out to see us. My name is Monica, and I'm the West Coast field organizer for the Humane League. And we're really excited to introduce you to the work that we're doing at the Humane League, especially here in the Bay Area. And we're hoping that by the end of this talk, you'll be excited to join us in the work that we're doing. So just to get us started, quick show of hands. How many of you came to the World Vegan Festival in part out of a concern for animals, farmed animals in particular? Okay, great. Okay, great. So you already have the motivation, and today we're hoping to show you how you can harness that drive to do even more good for our fellow animals. And now I'm going to try to advance the slide while I do this. Okay, so the truth is that just in the time it's kind of taken us to settle in here, like in the last 2 minutes or so, 36,000 animals were slaughtered for food in the US alone. And by the time we're done talking here in the next 45 minutes, that number will jump to 800,000 animals killed in that time. But what's even more staggering about this is that of the nearly 25 million animals that are slaughtered for food in this country every day, the vast majority of them live their entire lives in a factory farm. They're confined, mutilated, and deprived of even basic comfort. They can't engage in a lot of their natural behaviors. And over 99% of farmed animals in America spend their entire lives in crowded sheds, crates, cages, and the cruelty honestly dwarfs that of slaughter. These conditions aren't routine. I think most of us know that these conditions are routine. They're not rare. They're not like rare exceptions, right? This is how America feeds itself. So some of the most recent stats we have on the number of animals stuck on factory farms show that 74 million pigs, 88 million cows, 97 million turkeys, and 2 billion, actually almost 2.5 billion chickens are living out this fate every day in the US. That means that chickens represent approximately 90% of all land animals that are farmed for food in this country, which is why if you do something for chickens, you're actually making a huge impact. And the really amazing thing is that we can actually change these numbers, right? This year, after 6 months of campaigning, we achieved a massive win. You may have heard us talking about it over at our table. The largest fast food chain in the United States, Subway, they have like over 20,000 locations in the US. They were forced to make good on their promise to go 100% cage-free in North America in 2025. And just this past September, they finally updated their sustainability page to say that as of today, November 1st, 2025, They are 100% of the eggs that they use in all of their US locations are officially cage-free, and Canada will be following suit by the end of the year. It was a huge win for us. That's 340,000 hens each year who will never have to see a cage. And this change didn't happen super quickly, it happened pretty quick, but it did take 6 months of real action. There were protests outside Subway locations across the country, from Seattle to Miami, Indianapolis to Lincoln, Nebraska, and even right here in the Bay, there are quite a few. THL activists and supporters undertook thousands of digital actions, hounding Subway's executives. Letters were written and hand-delivered to Subway managers at locations across the country. And strategic demonstrations that took place outside a franchisee conference and Subway's HQ in Miami earlier this summer were also key components to winning this campaign. It's the power of sustained pressure campaigns that make change like this possible. And we're not going to stop with Subway, or Carl's Jr., or McDonald's, or any of the other companies that we've already won over. In fact, we've already kicked off our next campaign. You may have heard us talking about it again at our table, and we're going to talk more about that in a minute because we're hoping you'll join us. We keep the pressure on corporations because we know it creates the kind of change that ultimately affects the lives of millions of animals. It's organized power, and by the end of this presentation, you're going to know exactly how to be a part of victories like the Subway campaign. But first, let me tell you a little bit about the organization that's winning these fights and how we're doing it. Okay, so quick poll. Raise your hand. Who had already heard of the Humane League before they got here today? Okay, so about half, maybe a little less. Great. For those of you who are new to THL, you're about to learn why Animal Charity Evaluators has ranked us as a top charity since 2014. The Humane League exists to end the abuse of animals raised for food. And we're starting with egg-laying hens. And you might ask, why egg-laying hens? So as I stated a minute ago, when you help chickens, you're helping 9 out of the 10 land animals that are raised for food in this country. And that's a huge percentage of the animals that are stuck in our supply chains. So for us, cage-free eggs are a no-brainer. No one looks at their omelet in the morning and said, oh wow, I really hope the hens that laid these eggs had a horrible life of suffering. That makes it taste better or something. And for the people who do continue to eat animal products in this country, which unfortunately is still the majority, cage-free is an easy thing for them to get on board with, right? So this makes cage-free, the cage-free cause, the low-hanging fruit in what we're pretty sure is going to be a multi-generational struggle to ultimately end factory farming. This is just the first step. So if we can make this country cage-free, we've proven we can change this horrible system and then move on to Franken chickens, veal calves, slaughtering practices, and ultimately abolish this system. And we're not stopping there, right? We all know that in the 19th century, activists fought really hard for, quote, rights, like an 8-hour workday for children. That clearly wasn't their end goal, but it was a necessary step toward undoing the massive system, that massive system, and moving toward a world where children weren't seen as workers. Those activists knew that they had a much more profound goal, and we do too. We use evidence-based strategies to make that change we want to see. This means we focus on corporate campaigns that create real systemic change. Change that doesn't put the onus on the individual consumer to sort of make the right choice, right? But instead puts that onus on the corporate executives who perpetuate that suffering. So the way we see it, that means that just a few people have the power to change the global supply chain infrastructure, the overwhelmingly complex system that unfortunately feeds us today. And while converting billions of individuals to veganism is a noble task, it's also a Herculean one, and one that's going to take a lot of time. While convincing a few corporate board members to follow through on a cage-free commitment can help millions of animals overnight. These two strategies need to happen together at the same time. So real quick, think about this. How many animals does one vegan save per year? You may know the answer, but it would be really cool if you could turn to the person next to you and have a guess if you don't know. I'll give you a couple seconds to hash it out. Does anyone know the answer? Ooh, get your tuck in. Yeah, you know the answer? So numbers differ, but generally people cite about 100 animals a year. Now, imagine if we could get one corporation to change their policy and save 2 million animals kind of instantly. That's why we do corporate campaigns. Right now, we know that engaging in corporate campaigns that push corporations toward cage-free eggs is where we can help the most animals fastest. In the US alone, about 200 million hens are still stuck in the confines of a battery cage. We're almost 50% cage-free in this country, but that means there's still 200 million hens stuck in cages. It's one of the cruelest, most widespread practices that companies are actually willing to change when we apply pressure. So now we want to show you what exactly it is that we're fighting against, and to do that, I'm going to hand it over to Deepti, who's going to give you more insight into the grindingly cruel system that we're trying to end.
Thanks, Monica. Hi all, thanks for being here tonight, this afternoon, taking your time to come and learn and help chickens. My name is Deepti and I've been a Bay Area volunteer for the past 2 years. Humane League volunteer in the Bay Area. Okay. So I'll go over a bit of context here to help understand what egg-laying hens are facing in the factory farms. A lot of people, they think that eggs are a kinder product. They think that because there's no slaughter involved and there's no cruelty in there. But the truth is far from that. I used to feel the same way as well about eggs, but then seeing the facts and the footage made it clear that there's a lot of suffering in the egg industry. So most eggs don't come from sunny pastures or happy hens. They come from factory farms, which are 95% an industrial system like that. And the numbers are staggering as well. About 400 million egg-laying hens are stuck in the system and 9 billion hens worldwide. Most of the hens here don't see open pastures, are far from happy, are mostly used as production units designed for profit. Let's take a closer look at their lives from birth to slaughter and understand why THL is fighting for these cage-free systems. So let's compare what life's like for an egg-laying hen in the factory farm versus how life is like in a natural setting. In the wild, hens can live about 10 plus years, whereas in the industrial setting, just 18 to 24 months. In nature, a hen would lay around 10 to 15 eggs per year. But in the industry, their bodies are pushed to lay over 300 eggs per year. And the living conditions are nothing like what nature intended. In nature, hens perch, dust bathe, and roam free. However, in the industry, all these natural behaviors are restricted and they're packed into tiny wire cages where they spend almost their entire lives. And once they're too exhausted to lay any more eggs, they're considered spent by the industry and they meet the same fate, sent to slaughter. It's a stark contrast. Out in nature, the life of egg-laying hens would be very different from what they face when they're trapped in this industry. Let's also compare the lives of the two types of chicken bred by the industry, those used for eggs and those used for meat. This really challenges the idea that eggs are somehow less cruel as compared to chickens bred for meat. Egg-laying hens are bred for maximum egg output, whereas broilers and meat chickens are bred for rapid meat growth. Egg layers are allowed to live a max of 24 months, whereas meat chickens are allowed to live about 7 weeks. Egg-laying hens mostly suffer bone loss and organ failure, whereas broiler chickens suffer heart failure because of their bodies growing so rapidly. And in a unique and gruesome, cruel practice to the egg industry, the male chicks from the egg-laying breeds are killed immediately at birth, since they're considered useless to the egg industry. They don't grow large enough and they don't lay eggs. Whereas in the case of meat chickens, both the sexes of broilers are raised briefly before being slaughtered. When you see this side by side, it's clear. Both the egg-laying hens and the meat chickens endure unimaginable suffering in the system, and eggs are no less cruel. Here's a quick look at the battery cage, and this is what the THL is trying to do away with. Right? What's a battery cage? It's basically a tiny wireframe enclosure, and it's stackable multiple levels, designed at the 20th century. It was designed purely for profit. Less space means more hens stuffed into a barn. It means less labor intensive and more savings for the industry, since it's easier to feed the hens, collect eggs, and clean up. This cage, however, has huge repercussions for the hens. In this cage, they're not treated as living beings. They cannot stretch. There's aggression due to extreme confinement, foot sores from the wires, and disease spread. Each hen in this cage is allowed a space no larger than an iPad for the rest of their lives. And Monica is holding up the sample space that the chicken is allowed to live for the entire existence of about 18 to 24 months. And that's where THL comes in. THL cage-free campaigns come in to help free these hens from these battery cages. Next up, we're going to watch a short video produced by the Humane League that shows what we've been talking about, ties right into the cruelty suffered by the egg-laying hens.
When I hatched, I called out for her, but I was only surrounded by other chicks. My brothers were separated from me. They were killed. I grew up in a big, crowded barn. Then one day, I was taken to another place. We were put into this cage. There are 80 of us crammed in here. It's dark and crowded and noisy. The metal bars are so cold. Some of my friends have gotten really sick. We're laying so many eggs, it makes our bodies feel weak. It's dark and cramped. We're all so stressed and anxious. Sometimes we take it out on each other or on ourselves. One of my friends died, and her body was left in the cage with us. I just want to stretch out my wings and feel the sun. I want someone, anyone, to let me out of here. But the only time I'll be allowed out of this cage will be when I'm taken for slaughter. Please, do whatever you can to stop this suffering.
That was some hard but really important context to go over. We watched less than a couple of minutes of their lives, and even that was a hard watch. And this is what their entire existence of 24 months looks like. To be clear, the THL's goal is not cage-free, is not the end goal. The end goal is to end all animal suffering and the food production. But cage-free is a critical step forward because the momentum is there right now to win this. And it can improve the lives of millions of animals as we work toward the bigger vision. Okay, so next up, there's some good news. There's hope for these hens. The rest of the presentation focuses on actions we can take and some amazing wins already achieved by the Humane League. We'll look at some powerful strategies, specifically 5 pathways for changemakers THL uses in cage-free campaigns, and how volunteers like you can make a real impact. Next, Helen will cover the first pathway that's highly effective in getting corporations to move on their commitments.
Thanks, Deepthi. Hi, everyone. I'm Helen. I'm the lead of the Humane League's Bay Area team, and I'm going to tell you how we are going to solve these awful problems. So the first thing is I need a couple of volunteers. You don't have to speak. You just have to come up here just for a moment. Yeah, thank you. Yes, come on. Oh, thanks, Deepthi. Okay, we're just going to hold a little mini protest just here. So if you guys could just hold these signs. Okay. So the most important and effective thing that we do at THL is hold protests. You can see some photos from some of our recent subway campaigns back here. Now, why do we do this? First of all, this is very disruptive for people. It's also very visible, and it is terrible media publicity. This means that companies hate it, and they will do pretty much anything to get us to stop. The last thing that they want to do is have all of their customers walking past these lovely people holding these signs, telling them, oh, this company, they made a commitment, and now they're not following through. They definitely don't want any media publicity, and so they will do anything to get us to go away. And this is why it's the most important thing to do. Thanks, guys. You can sit down if you'd like to. Round of applause for the volunteers. Great. Okay, but we don't just protest any locations. So in our subway campaign, we were very strategic about the locations that we chose to protest in. So you can see one of our targets here. This is a cutout of this guy's head. So I don't know if you know this about Subway, but Subway is a franchised business, which means the locations are owned by individual franchise holders. We chose this particular individual because he owns many locations in the Bay Area. He is also the director on Subway's independent purchasing cooperative, which means he has a lot of power about Subway's overall supply chain. And so we did our research, and when we found out about this, we were like, okay, we're going to target him. We're going to go to his locations. And it was very effective. And at one of the locations, one of the neighboring businesses came over and was like, hey, I recognize that guy. I'm going to text him and tell him you've got his head outside his location. It was great. So we try and use our resources wisely, and that's why it's so effective. The other thing we do is take our protests right to the decision makers. So we had some volunteers from THL fly out to Miami when there was a franchisee conference there. Subway also have their HQ there. The group of volunteers did 11 protests in 3 days. They did not stop harassing these execs and these franchise holders. If they were having dinner, if they were going to work, if they were having a conference, they could just see them outside. They had lots of heads, lots of faces, like they could not get away from them. This is extremely effective. 2 weeks after that, Subway caved. They gave in to us. They reinstated their cage-free egg commitment, and as of today, they are 100% cage-free in the US. Woohoo! Great, so I hope that's inspired you. If there's other ways you want to get involved, the rest of the team are going to talk about that.
Okay, so the next pathway to get involved is digital activism. Digital activism is the backbone of modern corporate campaigns. It's how we multiply a few voices into thousands, numbers that corp execs can't ignore. Every major company today depends on its online image. They work hard to grow followers, build community, and protect their brand reputation. And that's where we come in. When these companies drop their commitments for animals, we go in there and we protest online. So when we post, comment, speak out online and sign petitions, we create pressure that these corporations feel. They don't like negative reviews, public change petitions, or viral posts that challenge them to do better. That's why the online Humane League Fast Action Network, or FAN, is so powerful. From your phone, your laptop, or the comfort of your home, you can take actions. And you can help move companies large and small to adopt better policies for animals. These actions also just take minutes, but when combined with others, they can create real change. Here's a volunteer testimonial about FAN. I have the FAN Action Network on my phone home screen and take actions while waiting in line. It's that easy. Here are also some examples on what the FAN Action Network looks like. You can have online petitions that go directly to the corp headquarters, email campaigns that reach CEOs and other decision makers, social media actions targeting social media presence by these companies. Plus, online action calls make it really easy to share campaign with other activists to amplify our reach, and it's a great way to get started in animal advocacy. Next up, Bonnie will cover the third pathway, which is mobilizing for change in local and national laws for animals.
Thanks, Deepthi. So hi, everybody. My name is Bonnie. I've been volunteering with the Humane League, or THL, for about a past year and a half. So you've already heard some details from Monica, Deepthi, and Helen on THL. its various efforts, and the reasons that drive these. So now I'll be talking about their efforts aimed at another area, legislative animal welfare policies, and how you people as constituents and how your voices can provide crucial support for these campaigns, which can have massively widespread effects. So members of Congress need, and they really do want to hear from voters like you, that animal welfare really does matter in agricultural policy. You have a number of options to reach out to your legislators. Whoops. Let's see. Sorry about that. That one, okay, thanks. So you can do something like signing a digital petition, calling and writing letters to your legislators. Each of these things takes a minute or two. If you want to make a greater impact, you can attend a town hall or an in-person protest on animal welfare policy, or even schedule in-person or virtual appointments with your legislators. So I've done this twice, once just a few weeks ago, and then once in November of last year. Both times I was talking with my legislator about something called the Farm Bill. And specifically, THL's legislative and policy focus for both 2024 and 25 has been on the Farm Bill. It's a massive piece of legislation that Congress passes every 5 years, and it shapes how animals are treated in agriculture across the United States. So THL is currently working to protect our historic state and local animal welfare laws by ensuring that no language putting those laws at risk is part of any farm bill. So protecting these laws has been an ongoing battle. This time around, we're dealing with something called the Food Security and Farm Protection Act. So take a look at the slide. That's Bill number 1326 in the Senate, and the Save Our Bacon Act, which is H.R. 4673 in the House. So we also have a postcard with a QR code that you can scan, so you can either come up here when this is over or stop by the THL's table, or if you like, I can actually pass this around and you can scan it. It'll take you to more information about these bills and a petition that you can sign to oppose them. So please do sign it, because your voices will be heard. Such Proposition 12 fixes, as the Save Our Bacon Act and the Food Security and Farm Protection Act, as they're called, could have multiple adverse impacts. And so I'd like to show a brief video now of a legislative protest that took place in Washington, D.C. on the 5th of October. The narrator of the video is going to talk about why they're there, what they hope to achieve, and share some details on the adverse impacts that I mentioned. I also need to say that whilst THL didn't host this video, Mercy for Animals and several other organizations did, it's something that THL greatly supports. And once you watch this video, you can imagine the impact of something like this going through Washington, D.C. Okay, so you've got the clicker, okay. Thank you.
I want to give that to Monica. So she...
You have to turn that.
Farmers have come out to protest the Save Our Bacon Act, and they've been rolling through the Union Station Circle, around Columbus Circle. There's another truck. Here come the tractors. Yes! Like, oh yeah. We're going to start having some farmers out here protesting with us. Thank y'all for being here. Small farmers are sounding the alarm. It would override rules like California's Prop 12, laws they've already spent time and money following. Farmers who invested in better living conditions for their animals would be punished, while giant industrial producers get all the advantages. The truth is, this bill is not about saving bacon. It's about saving factory farms. Protect small farmers, protect local choice, and stop the Save Our Bacon Act. So a group of farmers have come out to protest
Okay, thank you. And now I'll turn it over to Deepthi. And so she will be talking about the fourth pathway, which is community building and education. Thank you.
Okay, so the good news is that there's multiple ways to get involved if you want to help animals, something that suits your personality. And I personally got involved with one way and then learned from other advocates on trying different things. And they made me feel really comfortable to go and try like different ways of helping animals. So this is yet another pathway to get involved. It involves community building and education. Some of the most effective advocates are people who excel at building relationships and creating spaces for learning and connection. Examples of this kind of advocacy include organizing humane happy hours. We have one coming up right after this fest, and we really hope to see you there. Hosting animal rights documentary film screenings in your community. Planning educational workshops, example public speaking and tabling at events like this. Organizing animal rights book clubs, building and expanding your volunteer teams in your area, and if you enjoy cooking, hosting vegan potlucks with an advocacy focus. This is perfect for people who prefer conversation and relationship building over confrontational tactics. Next, Helen will talk about the fifth pathway, which is behind the scenes work.
Great, thanks, Deepthi. Where's the button? That one? Woohoo! Okay, so the last thing you can do is, if you're an organized person, if you're a nerdy person, we want you. We need people who are going to come and do the research so that we know where to go for our protests. We need to find out who are the people with all the power so that we know who to go and protest at. We need people who are good at marketing, people who are good at communications and logistics so that they can order all the materials and make sure that they show up at the right place. If that sounds like you, there's a really important role for you here, so please come and join us. I'm going to hand this over to Monica for the last bit.
Awesome. So, almost done. So hopefully now we've made clear our proven approach at the Humane League. We use strategic corporate campaigns at work, and then we back that up with public policy that locks in our wins. 2025 is a year that companies can't hide behind future promises, and we're proving that through wins like the subway campaign. But the fight doesn't stop here. We're taking on Choice Hotels next. That's our next campaign. And there are many more corporate targets on the horizon until we end battery cages and ultimately factory farming. So you may not know Choice Hotels, but you definitely know the brands they own, like Radisson, Quality Inn, Comfort Inn, Roadway Inn, all of the inns. And there are many others. And this campaign is part of a global effort. We're actually joining 90+ organizations around the world to make the demand on these hotel chains that they stick to their commitment to go cage-free. So already from Warsaw to San Jose, they're feeling the heat. And as you've seen, we've proven that we can make these campaigns against global corporations relevant on a local level. We leveraged our community power, as you saw, against individual subway franchisees in the South Bay, and we're going to do it again with Choice Hotels. We'll make sure they do right by chickens, and we'll do what it takes to make that happen. Likewise, support for initiatives like Prop 12 have been overwhelmingly backed in places in the Bay Area, with pulling over 63% of the vote, and we're not going to let Washington take that vote, our vote, away from us through their scheming in the Farm Bill. And while there's still a ton of room for change, California is really leading the way, and multiple states are following us, taking on cage-free laws themselves. So it's a really great time to be a part of the movement and actively work to make a better world for farmed animals reality, but crucially take the first step toward ending factory farming. So you came to this conference and really this talk because you care about animals, hopefully. And you've already made the choice to help animals through your personal decisions. Most of us have. The question is, are you ready to save millions of animals through corporate and political change? Real systemic change. So with that, we wanted to make sure we had time to advance a slide and have a conversation with you all. So if anyone has questions, we'd love to talk. Yeah, I'm going to repeat your question. I think that's what I've been asked to do. So if you want to go ahead. Sure. Yeah. So the question was, can we talk about cage-free versus pasture-raised? I don't know if any of you. I'll say a couple things if anyone else wants to say something. Yeah, cage-free is not the end. It's actually just the very beginning, right? I always tell people that we're on a very long staircase on this struggle to end factory farming, and cage-free is like picking your foot up to take the first step. Like, it is really not amazing, the cage-free system, right? Like, it's not ideal. It doesn't allow animals to be animals, right? But it does allow chickens to stand up straight, move their wings, do dust bathing. They're less likely to hurt each other and themselves due to stress. It makes a world of a difference for chickens. Now, pasture raised, there's so many definitions, and there's no specific categorization that like the government oversees or anything like that, right? So pasture raised can mean any number of things. It can mean having 15 minutes outside once a week, kind of a thing. Or it could mean being raised outside and living look, chickens are from the Southeast Asia, so living outside of Southeast Asia isn't going to be their natural habitat, but it's something close to like living a natural life. But yeah, I think cage-free is definitely not the answer. That this is not the end, right? This is our first step in moving the huge global infrastructure that has to change in order to end factory farming. Does that? I don't know if that really hits on. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I think, so to your point about like, what does pasture raised mean, I think it's tough, yeah. Did you have a question? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good question. Good question. So, again, if anyone wants to chime in, feel free. So, to the first point, generally, at least in the United States, corporations don't say anything freely of their own free will on their website that's going to be a lie because they're really afraid of being sued, which we would do. So we generally are like, if you're doing that, we can probably, but we have done investigations. We just did a global investigation earlier this year and found that there were people who said they were cage-free, and the suppliers they were getting their eggs from were indeed not cage-free. So we do checkups. Generally in the United States, the supply of cage-free is big enough and cheap enough, honestly, that like it's really not that big a deal for a lot of companies to change. And because California, Washington, Oregon, Massachusetts, Michigan, 9 states across the country have cage-free laws where you cannot purchase eggs that come from an animal that lived in a cage. It's often easier for corporations to just streamline their supply chain so that they don't have to have 2 different supplies of eggs for their different spaces. But you're right, it's like not a 100% foolproof system, but it's pushing producers to produce fewer eggs from cage. We can see that. And in fact, the president, I think his name is Chad, I can't remember his last name, president of like the Egg Layers Association or whatever, they're really pro cage free at this point, and they're on board. Like, sure, we might not like them and what they do, but the industry is moving that way. And I think we're at like 45.6% cage free in the United States, across the entire United States right now. I think we're getting really close to a tipping point where it's just not going to make sense to produce eggs from caged chickens because there just won't be the market on the same level. So we're really changing the whole economic incentive and the structures, right? Does that answer your question? Okay. Did anyone else have any questions? Oh, thank you for changing that for me. Okay. Well, we do have a table outside, so if you have questions, please come by and say hello to us. We would love to talk to you. I guess I'll just kind of wrap up here, yeah? Does that sound good? Yeah. So before we go, I have a couple invitations for you all. Again, come by our table. Please say hi. If you've already been, come by and say hi again. And if you haven't, please do. If you are in the Bay Area, check out this QR code or this tiny URL. Hopefully you can read it. You can sign up to our mailing list, and we'll get in touch with you about events that are coming up. We'd love to talk to you. We're really excited about the movement that we're building here, and it's just getting stronger and stronger by the day. And then we're holding a Humane Happy Hour this evening, right after the festival, at 5:30. We're going to be at Om Sabor, which is just down Franklin. And yeah, it's like a 10-minute walk downhill. So we hope to see you there. We'll provide the appetizers. You provide your passion for animals. And then finally, we have protests happening against choice hotels. That's what we do. Here in San Francisco on November 20th, that's a Thursday, and then November 22nd, a Saturday. And those are going to be at Comfort Inn by the Bay on Van Ness, just the other way up north. And it's a really great opportunity to exercise your activism muscle and be a part of the fight to make a difference for animals. And with that, I just want to say one last thing, I swear. You might remember that you started out the day saving 100 animals a year. But now you've just taken the first step to freeing millions. The animals really need you to take that step, and we're hoping you'll take it with us. Thank you so much. Come by and see us at the table, and hopefully we'll see you at Om Sabor. Have a good one.